everybody, and welcome to the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Bill, the company's expert, and today we're going to talk about the most successful business strategy. I'm going to tell you what that is today. Now, this episode is actually a continuation of the previous episode. In the last episode, we talked about the most important business concept of all. And what that said was that business success, specifically financial success, depends on two factors primarily that are outside of your control. These are the most important factors that determine success. The first one, by far the most important, was the presence of the market. So if you have a lot of customers that have a demand for the type of thing that you're producing, that is the single biggest determinant of your success. The second most important determinant of your success, the second most important factor, was your competitive advantage, okay? And these are two things that you have no control over. The third factor was strategy. And in this context, strategy is everything that you do. It's the entire way you run your organization, who you hire, what your plan is, how you execute that plan, etc. Okay? So it's only the third most important thing that leads to success. What you do, right? You have to be in the right position, or else it doesn't matter what you do, you will not be able to make a success for it. An example of that is the old expression, trying to sell a refrigerator to an Inuit, right? You know, if there's no demand for it, doesn't matter how brilliant you are, it just won't be a success. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. Of all the things that you could possibly do, which is the thing that's most likely to result in success, meaning financial success? And the answer to that question is product/service quality. That is the most important factor that will lead to success. In terms of a business strategy, that is the most important. This is the one that will determine whether you succeed or not. Okay. Now, I have lectured in universities. I've taught a lot of courses on business strategy, and this originates back from the 1960s, and it is still taught and practiced extensively, in particular by a lot of large U.S. management consulting companies, in particular Boston Consulting Group and McKinsey. They feature this quite heavily in a lot of advice they give to blue chip companies and a lot of other businesses. And this is where this originated a very long time ago, and it has been proven with data a million times over since then. So let me explain how this works, okay, and what this is. Product/service quality. You may be familiar with a quality program, okay? If you work at a company, they may have a quality program. So the term quality is quite often thrown around. Now, if you have a quality program, something like ISO 9000 or Six Sigma, usually quality programs refer to something called conformance quality. Okay, so ISO 9001 and Six Sigma, they are conformance quality programs. They basically deal with how you meet a specification, how well you meet a specification. And this is good because it can result in lower costs, okay? But that is not what we're talking about here today, okay? That's conformance quality. We're talking about something completely different. This is something called perceived quality. And in addition, this is something called relative perceived quality because it's comparing you to your competitors. Now, what is this? Let me give you an example. If you went to your customers or your potential customers and you gave them a list of all the companies that compete in your industry, you're one of them and the others are your competitors. You gave them a list of all of them. And you said to your customers, I want you to rank these in terms of how good you think each of these companies is. Okay? Number 1 will be the best company, and number 100 or whatever the last one is will be the worst company. Okay, this is simply the metric you use. Okay? Best to worst, rank them. Now, how well you're doing will be shown by how high you rank. So if most customers consistently rank your company as number one, these are the best, this is the best company to deal with. They have the best products. I like them the best. Okay? Then you are winning the battle when it comes to relative perceived quality. Okay? This is the perceived quality of your business as perceived by your customers relative to your competitors. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Now, if you're thinking that everyone is going to have their own definition of the word best, you're absolutely correct. It's going to involve many factors. It's going to involve, how well known you are. It's going to involve the absolute quality of your products. It's going to involve, maybe the price of your products. It's going to involve your public relations and what they think about your company and your brand, in many different ways. It's going to involve their experiences with your customer service. There's a million factors that go into this. But you simply ask your customers, which one do you think is the best? Okay? Now, let's get into this interesting metric, okay? If you produce products, you could call this product quality. If you primarily offer services, you could call this service quality. Okay? This is the biggest factor in performance. Now, achieving versus maintaining quality leadership, okay, are two different things. You must keep up with the times to maintain relative quality because the world is evolving and you have to evolve with it if you want to hope to continue to rank highly in this metric. Okay? If you want customers to, consistently think that you're number one, then you have to change with the times because your competitors are also evolving as well as the needs of your customers is evolving. Okay? This metric depends on what your customers are doing. Okay? So you can't ignore your customers. You can't just stay the same. You have to keep evolving and improving because generally speaking, most businesses try to continually improve. There are exceptions to that, and sometimes it's in name only. But generally speaking, as the world goes into the future, decade by decade, things are improving. So you have to improve at a rate equal or better than the average to maintain your ranking. Okay, you need to have more customer data by segment than your competitors to do this, and you have to act on it. Okay, you have to be more aware than anyone. That's how you can stay ahead of the game. People often misperceive products as a fungible commodity and compete on price alone, and this is a big mistake. Okay, hopefully everybody knows what fungible means. It means, one is as good as the next. For example, gasoline is a fungible commodity. It doesn't matter where you buy gasoline from, if it's from one gas station or another, it's all the same. Okay, a liter of gasoline is as good as the next. Doesn't matter where it comes from, doesn't matter, any other thing. It's a fungible commodity. Okay, however, you could probably imagine that something like selling automobiles is not a fungible commodity. You might look at a car and say, oh, it's fungible. A car gets you from A to B. All you care about is how much it costs and, how reliable it is or something like that. Well, no, we all know that that's not true. A Porsche is not the same as a Toyota, which is not the same as a Rolls-Royce, okay? They have found ways of differentiating their products so that you can't compare apples to apples, okay? If you perceive a product as a fungible commodity and then compete on price alone, usually that is a losing strategy, okay? In the vast majority of situations, competing on price is not the key to success. In fact, that will be a recipe for failure. This is only possible if you are the 800-pound gorilla in whatever industry you're in. If you're the biggest player to take advantage of economies of scale, you can compete on price, but nobody else can. Okay? So you need to differentiate your products. So in order to improve your product or service quality, you need to improve all non-price characteristics of the product. Okay, so, the quality of the product, the reliability of the product, the user-friendliness of the product, the availability of the product, the support for customers when they buy the product, the marketing of the product. Every non-price characteristic of the product should be improved, okay? And that will help you to improve your relative perceived quality. In order to improve it, you should also improve your image, the image of your company. You can improve customer service, and you can improve your product line breadth. So that means you don't just have a luxury product, you have an economy product, a mid-level product, a luxury product, and you meet every niche market you satisfy. Okay, that will help you rank higher in this metric. Okay, to improve this metric, you have to differentiate. Okay, if you can do that, if you differentiate your product or service from that of your competitors, okay, this is going to result in gains. You'll have uniqueness, you'll have customer loyalty, you'll have repeat purchases, okay? It's going to result in many positive effects, okay? So just to conclude here, if you have a quality program in your business, and like I said earlier, usually the quality program is some type of conformance quality, okay? Like ISO 9000 or like ISO in general or Six Sigma in general, okay? You need to change it. It's a good start, but there's many things that you need to incorporate within it. The quality program should be similar to marketing. Okay, it has to take into account customer needs and have an end-to-end type approach dealing with your customers all the way through operations, all the way back through customer care, and so on. Okay, if you do this, it'll improve both the perceived quality and the conformance quality. Okay. So that's probably a good introduction to this idea. So remember, the number one biggest metric, if you are an entrepreneur or you are a manager that has some influence over the strategy of a business unit, okay, this should be the number one thing you pay attention to and the number one thing that you attempt to improve, okay? It may not be possible if you're in a very large organization and you're sort of a tiny cog of a big machine, but in as much as you are in control of something that has its own brand and its own identity as far as customers are concerned, this is the thing to improve because it will directly result in more profitability and more long-term success. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope to see you on the next episode of the Business Growth and Entrepreneur Podcast. Take care.